They never knew her real name. To the Empire, she was a ghost, a malfunction in their records, a pattern of destruction that didn't fit the algorithms. But before she became Baba Yaga, she was flesh and bone. A girl born beneath the rust-red skies of Earth, back when it still spun beneath its own stars. Earth was never supposed to matter. Not to the Empire, not after the invasion. It was an inconvenience, rich in water, poor in obedience. The humans were a nuisance species, stubborn, primitive, ungrateful. Still, the Empire had offered integration, citizenship, uplift. They always did, just before the fleets descended. And when humanity resisted, when Earth refused to bow, the Empire taught its favorite lesson: total subjugation. The skies turned black with dreadnoughts. Cities were burned from orbit. The oceans boiled. In 3 days, Earth screamed, and then it went silent. The Empire broadcast footage of its fall across the stars. A warning, a message. This is the price of defiance. But they misunderstood their enemy. They didn't kill humanity. They scattered it. Across the colonies and mining moons, through broken starships and blood-wet soil, the survivors of Earth became something else. Something leaner, harder. Every child born after Earth's fall grew up with the sound of orbital bombardments in bedtime stories. And one of those children, one girl, never forgot the sound her mother's voice made as it was drowned out by fire. Her name, her real name, was taken from the world with her family, with her home. What rose in its place wasn't human in the way the Empire understood. She didn't scream, she didn't beg, she disappeared, and the deaths began. At first, it looked like sabotage. A comms relay on Deneb 6 went dark. A fuel depot on Kestrin outpost decompressed without warning. Isolated, surgical, too clean for rebels. But the pattern emerged over months, over years. Every destroyed station had housed part of the Empire's Earth campaign. Every victim had a record, a rank. The whispers began on military channels. A single name, muttered by grunts, mocked by officers, feared by everyone who served long enough to know the signs. Baba Yaga, the witch of vengeance, the nightmare in the void, a human-shaped shadow with eyes like ice and a heart made of steel. The Empire had no place for legends, but even they couldn't deny what was happening. Surveillance footage was wiped, black boxes self-erased, outposts reduced to slag with no alarms triggered. No one saw her coming, no one survived her passing. And then she escalated. The Battle of Aurillac was supposed to be impossible. One woman, one aging stealth frigate, and a single crew of augmented Earthborn rebels against an Empire fleet of 47 warships. She didn't run. She didn't hide. She tore through them like a virus in steel. She knew every weakness, every blind spot. By the time backup arrived, the stars were littered with twisted hulls and leaking reactor cores. She left one message on the open channel. You wanted war. You forgot we were good at it. They tried to hunt her. They failed. They tried to capture her. The team they sent vanished, except for the commander's severed hand, which arrived via private courier. Inside the fist was a data drive. The only surviving file? A video. Grainy, static-drenched. Baba Yaga standing over a console, helmet off, eyes dead. No words, just a look, like she was staring through the screen and into the Emperor's soul. And then she vanished again. But the Empire doesn't forget an insult, especially not a personal one. So they set a trap. Varela Prime, the Imperial throne world, the most fortified planet in known space. A bastion of glittering towers, orbital cannons, and triple-layered planetary shields. She was seen near its edge, and for the first time in years, she didn't run. She let them find her. The Emperor issued a proclamation: live across every sector, every channel. To the terrorist known as Baba Yaga, You have 10 hours to submit yourself to imperial custody. You will be tried. You will be broken. You will be made an example. 10 hours. A calculated show of mercy, arrogance wrapped in ceremony. But she didn't answer right away, not with threats, not with demands. She waited. Waited until the final hour, until the countdown had begun and every eye in the galaxy was watching. And then, one signal, no video, no voice, just text, pulsing across the Empire's mainframe, flashing on hollow screens from mining colonies to luxury yachts. I'll only need 10 minutes. The message spread faster than any Empire decree ever had. I'll only need 10 minutes. A joke to some, a glitch to others. The media ran wild with it. Talk shows debated her existence. Analysts speculated about bluff tactics. Military consultants assured the public that Varela Prime was untouchable. 10 minutes? It was laughable. The orbital defense net alone would take 20 to breach, assuming you had a fleet of siege-class warships, which she didn't. Not according to their intelligence. No one knew where she'd been hiding, what resources she had, or how she'd stayed a step ahead for so long. Not even the top brass could agree on whether she was one woman or something more. But in the command chambers of the Emperor's citadel, buried a kilometer beneath Varela's capital, the mood was colder, because they had tried to kill her, not once, not twice. Over 40 targeted assassination attempts across 6 years, each one carried out by elite strike teams trained in anti-human insurgency tactics. Every team either vanished or returned in pieces, if at all. The surviving soldiers, those few who made it back alive, refused to speak. Their reports were redacted. Their eyes never stopped trembling. The most coherent of them, a decorated war surgeon from Tarsian Black Watch, was found dead 3 days after debriefing. He'd carved a single word into the wall of his isolation cell before he bled out. Eyes. That was what unsettled them most. Not the tech, not the stealth, not the sabotage, the eyes. She didn't blink, didn't flinch. She watched. Even through reinforced faceplates, she saw them. As if she knew them, every thought, every doubt, every fear. As if she wasn't looking at the soldier they'd trained, but the child they used to be. Before indoctrination, before conquest, before the Empire made them monsters. She didn't just fight them, she judged them, and judgment was always fatal. Now, she was coming to Varela, and she'd made no attempt to hide it. 10 hours ago, a ship had appeared on the edge of the system. Small, cold, silent, too small to carry weapons of significant yield, too fast for its size, no distress beacon, no ID codes. It coasted through the black like a shark through ink. The Empire watched it, tracked it, even let it approach, certain that it was a scout, a probe, a decoy. The real attack would come from the shadows, but it didn't. No fleets emerged, no rebel fleets, no outer rim coalitions, no human insurgents in rusty freighters. Just her, no response to hails, no course deviation. The ship slowed as it neared the moon of Carex, the last checkpoint before Varela. And then, at hour 10, minute 1, her signal pulsed out. Initiating. What followed was not a battle. It was a collapse. The first sign was silence. Every Imperial satellite within 5,000 kilometers of Carex went dark in the same second. Communications, sensors, targeting systems. Dead. Then the power grid on the Carex outpost flared white and vanished. No explosions, no warning, just lights out. When they sent fighters to investigate, they found only slagged metal and cooling bones. No signs of a firefight, no escape pods launched, no time to resist. She hadn't fired a shot. She had simply turned them off. The Central Defense AI, known as Vigor, registered its last conscious thought at minute 3. A panicked attempt to override its own kill switch. It failed. Its final entry, logged by emergency backtrace, read, "She's inside." By minute 4, the orbital turrets aimed at her ship turned against one another, firing at false targets, exploding before reload. By minute 5, Empire Command lost control of the planetary shield's inner harmonics. That shouldn't have been possible. The shield array was quantum-locked, bio-keyed to the Emperor himself. There was no way she could have decrypted it. Unless she'd been there before. That was the whisper that started making its way through the corridors of power. That she'd been to Varela. Years ago. Before the Empire knew her name. Before the legend. Before the fire. They began reviewing the records, scanning every visitor, every arrest, every experiment filed during the Earth pacification efforts. And in one encrypted archive, buried beneath levels of clearance thought erased, they found something unsettling. A report, dated 13 years prior. Subject: human child, approximately 9 years old. Earth survivor. Genetic pattern non-standard. Neural mapping exceeds imperial threshold for baseline cognitive capacity. Status: transferred to Project C, ATHEDRAL. Notes: test subject displays anomalous pattern recognition. Avoids surveillance naturally. Does not speak. Displays signs of latent control over digital systems via non-intrusive means. Behavior suggests high empathic targeting capability. Disposition deemed unstable. Recommended for deep hold termination. Termination status, record deleted. It didn't say her name. But it didn't have to. Because they remembered her. The girl who escaped from under their scalpel, who fled through 6 layers of automated security, who vanished into the mining shafts beneath Varela and was never seen again. Until now. And she hadn't come for rebellion, or glory, or vengeance. She had come home. Minute 7 approached, and for the first time in over a century, the Emperor's throne hall locked from the inside. Not to keep anyone out, but to keep him in. Minute 7. The inner sanctum of the Imperial Palace, 30 layers of armored ceramite, guarded by gene-bonded elites and psycho-locked turrets, sealed itself shut. From the inside. The Emperor's voice echoed through the throne room, distorted by the silence pressing in from all sides. Status report. No response. Not from the command deck, not from the palace guard, not from the VIGILAI core that usually hovered in the Emperor's periphery like an obedient shadow. Just the sound of his own breath, and the quiet insect hum of lights dimming overhead. He stood from the obsidian throne, eyes narrowing. Override, open channels, now. The throne's interface flickered. Red text bloomed across the holoscreen. Throne privileges revoked. He stared. For a second, 2. Then his hand twitched to the emergency summon on his hip. But the comm was already dead. And in the silence that followed, he heard something impossible. Footsteps, not boots. Bare feet, software deliberate, approaching from the edge of the room, where no doors had opened, no alarms, no breach, no tremor in the shield walls, just her. She stepped out of the air like it was a curtain she'd pushed aside, humble, calm, dressed in black, not armor, not a mech suit, just a woven combat shift and a long, frayed coat, military surplus from a war the Empire had erased from its records. Her hair was tied back in a loose braid. Her face bore no scars, no rage. But her eyes, gods, her eyes. The Emperor had seen hundreds of assassins, fanatics, broken men with wild eyes and vengeance screaming behind their teeth. This was different. She wasn't here to scream. She was here to finish something. Baba Yaga, he said, voice steadier than he felt. You should have stayed in the shadows. She didn't answer, didn't need to. She raised a hand, and the throne behind him shut down. Its life support core hissed out steam, displays fading to black. You won't survive this, he said. My guard will breach the chamber. You've got maybe 60 seconds. She tilted her head. A signal passed. Somewhere above them, far above, a ripple of kinetic shock waves cascaded down the tower. One by one, the inner towers of the palace were collapsing, imploding without detonation, controlled, clean, surgical. No guard is coming, she said softly. I told you I'd only need 10 minutes. The Emperor's eyes narrowed. What are you? She walked closer. You don't remember? Not really. I was just another file, another experiment. You were an anomaly, he snapped. Your kind? My kind? She echoed. She was within 6 paces now. Her hands hung at her sides, no weapons, no threat posture. And yet, the Emperor stepped back. I was 9, she said, when your scientists took me off the wreckage of the Brisbane Colony Ark. Do you know what it feels like to have your thoughts mapped in real time? To watch the faces around you melt into numbers and probabilities? To see death before it happens, over and over, every time someone lies to you? You were unstable. I was a child. Her voice didn't rise, didn't waver. That was what made it worse. They told me my mind was a gift, said I could help win wars. They taught me how to see the threads, how to predict movements, break encryptions, feel emotion patterns before they manifest. You called it neural pattern osmosis. She took another step. You didn't teach me control. You taught me to obey, to suppress, until something inside me broke. The Emperor's mouth tightened. He remembered now. The girl from Project Cathedral. The child who kept collapsing the simulation chambers, not through hacking, but just by being there. She hadn't needed access. Her mind had synced with the systems on an instinctive level. A prodigy, they'd said. A threat, he'd declared. I signed the termination order, he muttered. But I thought, I died? She finished for him. Number I escaped, because I saw what was coming. She held out her hand, and the chamber responded. The lights dimmed, the walls shimmered. Hidden panels folded away, revealing glistening black fiber rooted deep into the palace's spinal structure. I've been inside your systems for 7 years, she said. Sleeping, learning, watching. That's impossible. You don't know what I am, she said. You thought I was just another human. Her eyes glowed faintly now. Not cybernetic, not artificial. Alive. Connected. I'm what happens when a child born of war learns how to listen to machines instead of break them. I don't interface. I harmonize. And your empire? She stepped onto the raised platform before him. It taught me everything I needed to bring it down. The Emperor reached for the fail-safe key embedded in his wrist, but she caught his arm before he touched it. No force, just held him there. You could have made peace, she said. You could have ended the cycle. We offered peace, he snarled, and you spat on it. You offered chains, she said, and with that, she let him go. He staggered back, hand still inches from the fail-safe, but he knew. It wouldn't matter. The palace had gone quiet. The command net was dead. And Varella's planetary shields were now under her control, because she wasn't a weapon anymore. She was the system. The Emperor stood motionless, his breath catching in his throat. He wasn't used to silence, not in his chamber, not in his empire. There had always been noise, soldiers moving, advisors whispering, drones humming, the hum of power thrumming through every surface like a heartbeat beneath the floor. Now, all he could hear was her breathing, and the dull roar of his pulse in his ears. I could kill you, he said, forcing authority back into his voice. Baba Yaga just stared at him. You could try, she said, but we both know you won't. He took a slow step toward the throne again, calculating, watching for weakness. But there was no tension in her body, no fear. She wasn't armed. She didn't need to be. Do you think this matters? He asked. Do you think killing me will stop the Empire? She looked around at the gleaming walls, the polished floor, the ancient sigils etched into the dark steel ceiling. Then her eyes came back to him. No, she said. Killing you is just the prologue. She stepped forward, and for the first time in his life, the Emperor stepped back without thinking. Varela isn't just your seat of power, she said. It's your symbol, your myth. the heart of the lie you built. Her voice echoed off the chamber walls now, amplified through the palace's systems, rebroadcast across the capital, picked up by emergency comms across the planet. You rule through fear, through spectacle, through the illusion of invincibility. She paused. I came to break that illusion. The Emperor lunged, desperation finally overwhelming calculation. His body enhanced by royal biotech, he crossed the space in less than a second. A single punch, aimed at her throat, delivered with lethal force. She didn't dodge. She stepped into the blow and vanished. He stumbled forward, striking only air. Then she was behind him, whispering, "You're still playing by the rules you wrote." He spun, but she was already gone again. No teleport, no shimmer of tech, just presence and absence, like light blinking on and off, a ghost through the machine. "You created monsters like me," she said, voice echoing now from every direction. "You turned children into weapons, convinced yourself we'd forget what you did." The throne behind him hissed, systems activating. Only it wasn't his doing. Holograms exploded to life around him. Dozens, then hundreds. Footage, documents, confessions, files the Empire had buried. Project Cathedral, neural integration trials. The Earth Compliance Directive, total extinction contingency. Biological manipulation of prison populations for labor control. It was all there, flooding every screen across the palace, and not just here. The data surged beyond Varela, streaming to every outpost, every garrison, every civilian terminal from the core worlds to the rim. The lie was burning. "You think fear is control," Baba Yaga said. She stepped into view again, this time at the foot of the throne, calm as ice. "But fear is fuel, it burns fast, and leaves nothing." The Emperor stared at her, eyes wild now, trapped in a cage he couldn't see, surrounded by truths he could no longer contain. "You'll tear it all down," he said, hoarse. "You'll throw the galaxy into chaos. You'll kill millions." "I won't have to," she said. She turned toward the throne's central node, still glowing faintly. A thought passed through her. The throne's light dimmed. "You've made enough murder to last 1,000 lifetimes," she said. "Let's see how the galaxy lives without you." The Emperor moved again, this time not for violence, but for the failsafe hidden beneath the throne's step. A last gasp protocol, a code black. Kill the signal, destroy the chamber, take her with him. He reached and found her hand on his again. She stared at him, not with rage now, but pity. "You don't get to decide how this ends," she said. "I'm the Emperor." "No," she said. "You were a man, just one." She let his hand go and stepped away. The fail-safe activated, but nothing happened. The explosion sequence hung for a split second, then collapsed, corrupted, rewritten, by her. She looked up, just once, and spoke into the silence. Minute 10. A pulse shot out from the throne, silent, bright, invisible to human eyes but blinding to every sensor across the planet. Power grids failed, control systems shorted. The Empire's neural relay, its greatest strength, fell offline, not destroyed, reset, like the memory of a dream fading after you wake up. And just like that, it was over. The chamber lights flickered back to full brightness. Baba Yaga stood still. The Emperor, eyes hollow, sank slowly to his knees. No blade had touched him. No bullet had passed through his heart. But something inside him broke. His myth, his legacy, shattered. "I should have killed you when I had the chance," he whispered. She turned to leave. "You did," she said. And then, she was gone. No flash, no sound, just absence. The chamber doors hissed open at last, too late. The Emperor's guards rushed in, only to stop in shock at what they saw. Their leader on his knees, his throne cold and empty. And on the floor beside him, the Empire's crown. Split down the middle. They called it the 10-minute war. No fleets, no armies, no blood in the streets, just silence. And then truth. At first, the Empire didn't believe it. Couldn't. One of the most secure facilities in the galaxy, its throne world, no less, breached by a lone operative without firing a single shot? But the evidence was everywhere. Public records, sealed confessions, hidden transmissions from within the Emperor's inner circle, all dumped across the galactic network in perfect synchronization. Not leaks, not chaos, a message. The myth of imperial invincibility had always rested on a lie, that fear made people obedient, that obedience could be mistaken for peace. But once the fear broke, the Empire's bones began to show. On the rim worlds, labor colonies stopped sending shipments, not because of sabotage, but because the overseers laid down their rifles, walked away. In the core, high command fractured. Some demanded retaliation, others went silent, a few defected entirely. And in the capital? The Emperor never left the throne room again. He was alive, technically. But the Empire no longer listened to his commands. Because when you're a god, and the people see you kneeling, bleeding inside without a wound, you're just a man again. And men can fall. Some say Baba Yaga vanished forever after that. Others believe she didn't disappear. She became something else. A whisper in the networks, a presence in the stars. No one ever caught her. No one even tried. Because they knew what she was. The mirror they'd spent lifetimes avoiding. 3 weeks later, on the edge of the Marexis Reach, a small refugee vessel called the Red Lark received an anonymous transmission. Just coordinates. No name, no code. They followed it anyway. What they found was an archive station, buried in the bones of an asteroid, and inside it, the full history of every Empire war crime the core worlds had denied for generations. Children born in cells, towns erased by orbital fire for speaking the wrong dialect, experiments in emotional suppression, neural dissection, thought compliance, the kind of horror you couldn't unsee, and at the center of it all, a name, Evelyn Cass. Her birth certificate had been wiped from the EarthNet centuries ago, but there it was, plain, human, real. She'd once been a girl on a civilian colony, loved drawing stars in the sand, had a mother who worked hydroponics, a father who sang folk songs at night, off-key but always smiling. They all died when the colony refused to accept imperial biometric tagging. The orbital strike had lasted 43 seconds. She was 9 years old when they found her in the rubble, 9 years old when they decided she wasn't human anymore. Years passed. The Empire fell, not with an explosion, but like ice under sunlight. Slow, certain, irreversible. World by world, system by system, its grip loosened. Some fought to keep it alive. Some clung to its flag, too afraid to imagine life without the monster that held the stars together. But the rest? They remembered her words. Fear burns fast. It leaves nothing. They remembered what it meant to speak freely, to choose, and from the ashes of that collapse, something new emerged. Not a perfect world, but a possible one. A Congress of Independence formed on the ruins of Cathan Prime, open to all species, all peoples. No emperors, no gods, just broken survivors, trying to build something better. There's a statue now, not of Baba Yaga, but of a little girl, sitting on a crate of supplies, sketching stars in the dust with her fingers. No name, no plaque. Just a simple inscription etched into the base. 10 minutes is all it takes, when one person refuses to kneel. Double asterisk. They tell her story in whispers and in fire. Mothers teach their children that being angry isn't shameful, so long as your anger stands for something. Veterans who fought on both sides wear her memory like a scar and a badge, because she didn't win by becoming a better killer. She won by surviving what they did to her, by carrying it, and never letting them forget. That's the thing about humans. You can break our bones, you can take our names, You can burn our homes, but if you leave us breathing, even just one of us, we'll find the truth. We'll carry it through hell. And one day, whether it takes 10 years or 10 minutes, we'll make you remember it too. Baba Yaga didn't come back, but she was never really gone. You see her in every child who refuses to salute, every system that tears down its chains, every voice that says no when the powerful demand yes. She became something bigger than fear, bigger than the empire. She became the voice in the dark that says, "We are not afraid of you anymore." And that was the beginning of everything.